Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're doing another Notion video, but it's going to be very experimental. It's going to be interesting and fun because we're going to be playing around with a tool that is super new to Notion, but it's also all the frenzy that's going on right now, and that is AI. So Notion did come out with an AI tool, and I actually think that it is one of the better AI tools that I have seen recently. So it's going to be really interesting to just dive right into Notion right now and kind of click around and see what it's all about. That's what we're going to be doing in the video. But yeah, let's get started. This is going to be fun. Friends, I wanted to give you a quick update on Magic Mind, which is the matcha-based energy shot that I've been taking alongside my morning coffee every single day. Been taking it pretty consistently for the past week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And I have to say that my productivity levels have been really great. I have a good combination of feeling really chill while also being super productive. And this has definitely been helping in that area. So highly recommend so far. I'll give you another update soon. But yeah, Magic Mind has been a very good experience so far. I'll put the information in the description box if you're interested. Okay, friends. So as you can see here, I've created a page specifically for this little brainstorming session or a little deep dive because I don't know what's gonna happen. I haven't played around in AI as much on Notion like I mentioned, so it's gonna be interesting. But I made this page, and essentially what you can see right here, as soon as I created the page, it gives me a prompt to, start building things in Notion, and it now says press space for AI. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And there are a lot of options, y'all. It's so many options that I've said this in last week's video. It's almost overwhelming, so I haven't even gotten to play around in it just much. But let's maybe go through a bunch of the common ones. And if you're interested in seeing like a part 2 where I go through every single one, then we can definitely do that. But there's a lot, so I don't want to like take up a humongous amount of time. So let's start with brainstorming ideas because I feel like a lot of us do this. And I will just say before I get started that I feel like Notion AI is going to be a really great tool that sort of works like a virtual assistant. At least I hope so, because that's exactly what I would want from an AI tool that is within a productivity tool, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's start with brainstorming an idea. Let's brainstorm ideas on a lifestyle podcast. I don't know. That just came to my mind. I hit enter and there it goes. We're seeing a ton of stuff just written before our eyes. It took maybe a couple of seconds for it to do that. So it says interviews with experts in different fields related to lifestyle, such as nutrition, fitness, mental health, and self-improvement. Wow, that's pretty dang impressive. And then it just keeps going on with a bunch of different things, sharing personal stories, discussing trends, hosting interactive Q&A sessions. Wow, this is like a really great outline or sort of brainstorming sesh. I guess you could call this like a brain dump for if you wanted to start a lifestyle podcast. Very impressive so far. Kind of freaky, but let's move on to something else. Let's see. So when I hit space, it told me that I can do other things aside from that first menu that came up. So I can continue writing. I can have it write more if I want more. Summarize, find action items, translate. That's pretty awesome. Explain this. Then there are like technical type things, which is improving writing, grammar, making it longer, shorter, tone. You can make it sound professional, confident. Okay, before we move on to another one of these things down here, which are just the same types of posts that it can generate for you, let's do some of these other things, such as summarize. What does this mean? Okay, so it literally summarizes what it created for you. This document outlines different aspects of a podcast related to lifestyle, including blah, blah, blah. So it's almost like the intro paragraph, if you think about it in that way, right? If you're thinking about schooling and how you kind of set everything up before you get into the details, it literally did that for us. Again, creepy. Let's see if it gives me other options. Okay, yeah, so back to this menu. And by the way, I'm getting back to this menu every single time just by hitting the space bar. So let's see, find action items. Let's see what that means. Okay, so it says conducting product reviews for various lifestyle products such as home decor, personal care, and workout equipment. It's almost like looking through this piece that it wrote here, finding bits that you can actually do and cross off of a checklist, which is why it made checkboxes, and created a to-do list for you. Oh my gosh, this is so cool because if you think about it in a way where you did this all by yourself, if you're a one-person team, you don't have an assistant, this is doing all of that assistant work for you. Like, this will be extremely helpful for someone like myself who only works for themselves. Gonna hit space again. We're gonna translate. The only languages that I know somewhat in is Spanish and German. Let's do German. Let's see. Whoa. Okay, whoever is German watching, let me know how accurate this is, but it just rewrote the whole thing in German. Oh my gosh, that is wild. Very cool. Oh, look, it says AI responses can be inaccurate or misleading. So they might be saying, like, disclaimer, some of these may not have been translated appropriately. Okay, that's totally fine. I see another menu here where it says try again, make longer, continue writing. I'm just gonna hit done for a sec there and hit space so that we can go back to this previous menu that has all of the technical type stuff. And we're gonna go down to this area where it says improve writing, blah, blah, blah. You know what, actually, before I do that, let me erase the German before it starts working off of the German, and then I have no idea what's going on. I am not fluent in German, I just know a little bit of it. So back again. Okay. Let's do something like change tone, because we know some of these things are, very, very technical, but let's go to change tone and see how well they do there. Let's do something like, because it seems pretty formal right now. Let's do friendly. Okay, so I see that it's highlighted what it's already written, and now it's writing a whole new version of it. There we go. And then it has a menu that says replace the selection. So it says, hey there, this is a document about a podcast, da, da, da. Okay, gives it a little bit more of a human type voice, which is even creepier. But this sounds really nice. This is probably something that you would want to do if you wanted to change it to a friendly tone. Maybe you're sending this as a pitch to someone, this podcast idea. I don't know. Let's hit replace selection and see what happens. Okay, so it highlighted everything that it wrote before and replaced it with the friendlier version that we asked it to change into. Pretty darn impressive, I may say. All of these things, in my mind, I'm thinking this would take hours to do, and it's doing it in a few seconds, so this is pretty cool. Now, I wouldn't say that, at least at this given moment, that it's going to replace something that a human would do, but it definitely helps you have a starting point, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see what explain this means. I wonder if that's the same as... Okay, so it says this document describes a podcast that focuses... Da, da, da. It's essentially like the summarizing kind of feature, but perhaps this has a little bit more detail. It has a little bit more specifics for someone who literally wants you to explain what's going on here. So that's pretty cool. Kind of redundant, but still pretty cool. Okay, so I think we've gotten down to the bottom of the technical type menu, which I'm noticing there's two menus. There's a technical type of menu that helps you adjust what they've already created for you or generated for you. And then there's that main draft with AI section where you can start from scratch. So I'm going to go back to starting from scratch. Oh, and it has a recents tab now, so you can go back to something that you've already asked it to do. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we did brainstorm ideas. Let's do, I feel like blog posts, while that could be definitely relevant for some people, it may not be relevant for everybody. Let's do outline, because outline can also apply to school. I hope that's not controversial for any teachers that are watching me right now, but outlines doesn't necessarily mean that it's writing for you, and I've heard that plagiarism is an interesting element when it comes to AI, but just for curiosity's sake, let's see. Write an outline about American football. This is going to be interesting because I wonder if it'll be able to distinct American football from like soccer or, football that is referenced in the other parts of the world. So let's see. The only reason why I did that is because I actually did a very lengthy paper on American football when I was in college. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. Okay, so this is this outline. It gave you like a header. It gave you bullet points with like bolding and formatting and all of that stuff. So it says American football is a popular sport in the United States. So it gives you a little bit of a brief overview. It's got objectives, players. It's breaking the topic down for you. Wow, this is unreal. I didn't even establish if this is... The game is played with an oval shaped, yeah, so it definitely was able to distinguish between American football and, football/soccer. So that is really dang cool. I like this because if you did want to take out the work of, creating something very, very baseline, so that you can just get to the nitty gritty. And if you're like a super creative and you just want to get to the details and you don't have time to work through an outline beforehand and you don't have anybody to help you with that, this is great. This takes a lot of research out if you needed to do research for anything. Again, I am not someone who is a fan of plagiarism, of course, but it's just interesting. It's interesting to see. So let's go back to that main menu where you can do other things, because we've obviously gone through this technical menu already. Let's see what else would be relevant. Social media post. This would be more relevant for someone like me. So if you're also a fellow content creator, this might be relevant for you. But let's see. Write a social media post about, let's say, sustainable fashion. That is something that I have an interest in. So let's see what they can come up with. Okay, this is a very lengthy social post. So this would be like a Facebook social post almost. Definitely not a tweet, definitely not an Instagram post, or maybe an Instagram post, but it is lengthy. So let's see. Sustainable fashion is a growing movement in the clothing industry. So it gives you, again, another overview. And then it gives you some tips, which is very interesting that it's structuring this in a way that is very savvy, tech savvy, or social media savvy. Gives you an overview, it gives you some tips, which is value that's in the social post, and then it gives you a little bit of a conclusion with hashtags. Now, I don't know if these hashtags are necessarily useful hashtags. That would be something to experiment with further, but it did give you hashtag options. And what I mean by just like usable or effective hashtags, I'm wondering if it even did the research on the back end about hashtags that would actually give you growth in terms of posting on social media. But very, very cool to see this. Actually, I'm going to go into that technical menu, just hit space, and see if I can change this tone to friendly, because we love a friendly social media post. Oh, look at this. This is where we're seeing a little bit of a faultiness, because it just went and changed the tone for everything that we've posted so far, not in that particular section that I was working on. So that's something to make note of there. If you wanted to have several topics happening in one page, that can get tricky. So you might need to separate, if you did different topics such as American football and sustainable fashion, into different pages. Otherwise, it will apply to everything. This menu might apply to everything. So I'm just gonna discard. I clicked off, but it said discard. So I'm just gonna hit discard because that got a little bit too complicated. Let's go back to that original menu and let's see what else we can work on. So we did brainstorming ideas, we did outline, and we did social media post. Press release seems very specific. Creative story, wild. Essay, I feel like these are also like perhaps in the scholarly world, in the educational world might be helpful. Poem, that's very odd. I am more interested in Notion being a virtual assistant type of tool, Notion AI being a virtual assistant tool. So let's go to to-do list. This is something that I would definitely use. Write a to-do list about launching a podcast. Sorry, I know that's a repeat example, but that was the first one that came to my mind. Launching a podcast. If you're planning on launching a podcast, here are some tasks you should consider completing before you launch. Choose a topic, create a name and logo, define the format and structure. This is legit, y'all. Create a list of potential episodes and topics and guests. this is legit. I'm like currently working on a podcast and these are for real on my actual to-do list that I generated by myself. So this is pretty freaking awesome. Had this been a few months ago, I wouldn't have had to done the research on several different websites and videos and what have you to find this information and generate it into a to-do list. So this is so incredibly helpful. This has been my favorite thing so far that we've experimented with. I'm definitely going to use this. But let's keep going. All right. So we have meeting agenda. That's interesting. Pros and cons list, job description, sales email, recruiting email. I wonder what was the thought process behind creating these specific prompts. It must have been like based off of either feedback or from data that they have on the back end of like usage in Notion and what would be most important to people for Notion users. But it's just interesting that a recruiting and sales email is an option in here. Let's go with something a little bit more accessible, such as a pros and cons list. I feel like I'm trying to pick the topics that would most apply to the general public and not just, like a sales representative or something. Okay, so write a pros and cons list about starting a business. I feel like that's a good topic. What do you think? Okay, so again, it's doing that cool formatting. It's creating headers for you, bullet points. It's like, doing all of that little bits. Those details I think are important as well. But pros, independence as a business owner, you'll have the freedom to make your own decisions and be your own boss. Preach. Financial rewards, personal fulfillment, great. And now into the cons, uncertainty. Starting a business involves a lot of risks and uncertainties, long hours, financial risk. Wow. This is pretty darn cool. I don't know if you guys feel the same way as myself, but I keep looking at this in a way of like, how long would this have taken me to do by myself from scratch if I just went in, opened up a brand new page on Notion and decided to brainstorm an idea? I feel like personally, especially with Notion, it would take me hours. It would take me hours to do just one of these topics in here, because when you're starting from scratch on your own, you're going onto several different websites. Maybe you're watching YouTube videos, maybe you're watching or listening to a few episodes of a podcast to find this information, to find it on the internet, because the internet is so huge. You have to do a lot more research nowadays, right? I'm saying nowadays like that's not like the reality for decades now, but yeah, I feel like this would be a lot of back-end work for a person to do if they had started from scratch. So being able to have a base point, and I think that's the most valuable thing that I'm noticing here, is that this gives you a base point so that you don't have to do all of that admin-y or researchy type of work before you can get into the actual meat of what you're interested in writing about or dissecting or creating a to-do list for or starting a business on and stuff like that. So this is really, really impressive. I love this. I love that we maybe got ourselves into maybe one issue when it came to like the two issues. The translation, we don't know if it's accurate because I'm not German. And the second thing was that if you are trying to modify something on this singular page and you have several topics happening, the modification applies to everything, which is not something you necessarily want. But aside from that, extremely impressive. I definitely want to dive deeper into this. Let me know if you're interested in any of the things that I showed in the menu, and I'll show it to you really quickly. If you're interested in anything in this menu or in the main menu for Notion AI that you want me to go into deeper, or maybe you want me to answer some questions on, or if you want just a general update on how I start using this, because I guarantee you I'm going to be using this. Like I said, I am working on a podcast. I am always working on fun new projects, and I just like to brainstorm things within Notion. So I'm absolutely going to be using this tool. So let me know what you are most interested in, but I think this was a fun first deep dive. Let me know what you think. All right, friends, so that is all for this week's video. I hope you liked it. I hope it was interesting. Let me know what you think about AI in general. If you're a fan of it, if you are a little bit skeptical about it. As you can tell, I'm a little bit in the middle, but I am optimistic about the Notion AI tool because it is going to be a huge help in the world of virtual assistant type stuff. And as a one-person team, as myself, that is super valuable. But I would love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments, but that is all for this week's video, and I will talk to you in next week's video.